So, good morning, Dr. Deb. And we are live on her screen. So we're all live. We're here this morning to do SHiFT online on the day that we would have done SHiFT, which is kind of hard for me. And so I'm just deep breathing and just so grateful that some of the speakers were willing to come online in this fashion and talk to everybody about a subject that's meaningful in today's times, not necessarily their original topic. In Deb's case, not much of the exact topic, but just something that would be relevant and help support people right now. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Deb.
Great. Well, thank you so much. You know, when you asked me to be a part of SHiFT Charlotte months ago, who would have known that the world was going to turn upside down in the meantime? And the reality that we find ourselves in right now is so unexpected. And so the topic that I wanted to talk about today is stress, health, and immunity, because we are all stressed. The whole world is turning upside down. And we all need to have a healthy immune system now more than ever, and we know that stress is not good for our immune system. So what I would like to do this morning is to spend a few minutes actually talking about the whole pandemic and maybe giving you some updates that might be helpful about how to stay safe and what's going on. And then I want to shift over to talk about how our immune system works, how stress affects our immune system, how sleep, how your hormones, how your gut, how all of these things are connected. And it's not just about taking vitamin C. We have to think about you as a whole person in order to help keep you healthy so that you can feel good today, you have less risk of getting really sick tomorrow, and you can have less risk for chronic disease in the future. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the supplements and what doses I recommend, and we'll just get through as much of this as we can in the time that we've got. So right now where we are here in the Charlotte area, we are all on lockdown, and that is so important. I still see people online kind of questioning whether we really need to do this, but this is a really nasty bug. It's making people really sick. We don't have a cure. We're working on it, but there's nothing available. And so the best bet is not to get sick. And because we are all susceptible, this is new, nobody's ever had this before, ever in history. So we are all susceptible, and it transmits fairly easily. And so your best way to stay safe is to stay home. So it is so important, social distancing, wash your hands, you know the drill. One of the really big challenges that we've had is we do not have enough tests. And even when you are able to get a test, it can take 7 to 10 days to get the test results. So you don't feel good over here, and it can take such a long time before you even know whether that's what it is or not. And in the meantime, you must stay home. There are more and more tests coming rapidly. We are trying to make tests that come back sooner, but the status of right now is we don't have enough tests. They're taking a lot of time. So if you get sick, we do not want you to go to the emergency room, to the urgent care, to your doctor's office. If you are just a little bit sick, just assume that's what it is and stay home. If you go into the doctor's office, they may or may not even be able to test you, but they got to gown up with the gloves and the mask and the whole gear, and we don't have enough gear. So that's another really, really big problem is in the hospitals, there are so many patients, and we are expecting so many more because this spreads exponentially, and we're just at the beginning. We don't have enough gowns, etc. So if we can all stay home, slow down the spread, you've all heard about flatten the curve, it really makes a difference, and it protects the healthcare workers whose lives are in danger by dealing with people who are really, really sick. So take care of yourself, stay home. You are most likely to get infected by being close to someone, by being within 6 feet of them if they cough or sneeze, by shaking hands. The second most likely way of getting it is if they cough in their hand, touch the doorknob, and you come along and touch the doorknob and then touch your face. So that's where the hand washing comes, the advice not to wash your face. All this stuff about the grocery store and, is it in the air and is it on packages? And we can't guarantee that it's not because we know that the virus lives on those things, but that is a less likely way for you to get the virus. So especially if you were already a little bit obsessive compulsive or a little bit of a germaphobe in the beginning, and now as this pandemic happens, this could really throw you right over the edge. So if that's you, please get help, because it is not so likely that you'll get it that way, but we all do need to take precautions and be careful. Some of the things that I have heard people talk about online about like disinfecting are true and some are not. So I just want to really quickly run through some of those. Alcohol is a good disinfectant, but it has to be at least 60% alcohol. And sometimes that's hard to find at the grocery store. Vodka is not a good disinfectant because it is only 40% alcohol. But if you buy Everclear, which has a higher alcohol content, that would be okay. You can put it in a spray bottle and spray it on surfaces and let it dry. Hydrogen peroxide is another good disinfectant. These things aren't good at cleaning. So first you clean with soap and water, let it dry, spritz it with alcohol or Everclear or hydrogen peroxide, and then you got to leave it on and let it dry. If you wipe it off right away, it doesn't kill the virus. Vinegar, it turns out, is not very good at killing the virus. So vinegar is a great disinfectant for bacteria, but it turns out it's actually not the best one for this particular virus. Ibuprofen does not look like it's the best thing. If you do get sick, the fever is actually helping you to fight the virus. You don't have to take anything, but it's better to take Tylenol. And we have question marks about some of the medicines that you've heard about in the news. So there's hydroxychloroquine, which is a malaria drug. It's sometimes used for people who have diseases like lupus, and it might be helpful, but first we thought it would, and now we're not so sure. So there's lots of studies going on. The information is coming in fast and furious, but the bottom line is we still just don't really know. In China, and I've heard also in New York, they are starting to study IV vitamin C. And vitamin C, we're going to talk more about, but it is a really great immune booster. And it gives me hope, and it makes me feel optimistic, at least that they are open-minded enough that they are trying this kind of more natural treatment, and it is showing promise. But again, we don't really have the results yet, and so we don't really know for sure whether that's going to work or not. So we've got this pandemic going on outside of our door. It's out of our control. It is really scary. You know, last night, in the middle of the night, my husband woke up and he couldn't breathe. And I woke up and I looked at him, and the first thing that popped into my mind was, oh my God, it's coronavirus. And immediately, of course, once you think you got coronavirus, it jumps to, am I gonna die? And so in the middle of the night, I felt that stab of fear as he couldn't breathe. And it turns out he just choked on his own spit, and like 30 seconds later, he was perfectly fine. But we live in this fear right now, and that's really hard. So the times are crazy, and what we need to focus on is the things that we do have control over, because there's lots of things that we do have control over, and there's lots of things that we can do. So I want to talk about the things that we can do, how to keep your immune system healthy. And I want to just address, before we go into that, why all doctors aren't necessarily talking about this. All doctors are talking about wash your hands and stay home and all that kind of stuff. But not all doctors are interested in talking to you about vitamin C or probiotics or meditation. And it's because at medical school, we are really trained to treat diseases with drugs. And we're not trained in herbs and vitamins and nutrition. And so we just really don't know the answers. So for me personally, I was just a regular conventional doctor for a long time, but I didn't feel good. I knew that something wasn't right with me. And there was nothing in my medical training that helped me understand what was going on. And my eye-opening experience, my opportunity to transform came when I actually read a book that was written by Suzanne Summers about women's hormones. And I'm sure that you can imagine that doctors are not interested in getting their medical information from celebrities, but that book allowed me to see what was going on for me. I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition that causes low thyroid. I have problems with my adrenal glands. My cortisol level was off, and I had no idea about these things. And so once I learned that there was another way, I changed everything about how I practice medicine. So I believe that even before the worldwide pandemic, we have a health crisis in this country. Medicine, our modern medical system is really good at acute care medicine. So this whole COVID-19, this is acute care medicine. We've got doctors and ventilators, and we know what to do to help. And we're learning really quickly the things that we didn't know. What we're not so good at is chronic care medicine. So people who have diabetes and heart disease and arthritis and cancer, et cetera, we don't have cures for these things. These are chronic conditions. A lot of them are lifestyle related, toxins in the environment, things that are around us predispose us to these things. And there is so much that is in our control and in our power that we can do to help, but it's not what's taught at medical school. And the problem with a lot of the drugs is they just put a Band-Aid on the symptom. They're not really getting at the root cause of the problem. So that's what I want to talk about today, is getting at the root cause of the problem. And we're specifically going to talk about your immune system and the things that you can be doing to get at the root in order to have a good, strong immune system in order to keep yourself healthy and well. So let's start by talking about stress. So we're locked up at home. When you're locked up at home and you're feeling kind of stressed and fearful, you don't really know what's going to happen. There is a tendency to want to eat everything in the house. You think about cocktails for breakfast sometimes. I mean, sometimes we don't always turn to our best behavior for our coping skills. And for right now, one of the things I would say is maybe we should be kind to ourselves if we're not on our very, very best behavior. But of course, those things are not the things that are good for your immune system. So here's the explanation, though, for why we feel like reaching for those things. When you are stressed, your cortisol level rises, and cortisol is your main stress hormone, and it's helping you to cope with stress, and that's good. The problem is when you have stress day in and day out, that cortisol becomes chronically elevated, and now it's not very helpful anymore. So elevated cortisol makes you not sleep well. It makes you gain weight, especially right on your belly. It knocks your other hormones out of whack. It's a regulating hormone. So menstrual cycles can become irregular. You can have more PMS. For men, it lowers testosterone. So cortisol knocks the other hormones out of whack. It interferes with thyroid hormone function. So even if your thyroid is healthy and it's making the right amount of hormone, or maybe you have hypothyroidism, but you're taking the right pill, your cells can't use the thyroid hormone if you've got too much cortisol in your system. So you feel bad, even though those thyroid tests might look okay, which is super frustrating. And I hear that all the time. Women come in and say, you know, I was sure that it must have been my thyroid, but my doctor checked it and said everything was normal. Well, here's one of the explanations for why you might feel bad, even if those standard thyroid tests are okay. Cortisol pushes your blood pressure up. And we know that people with high blood pressure are more at risk of getting seriously ill with this coronavirus. Cortisol pushes your blood sugar up and pushes you to diabetes. It eats away at your bones, so you're more likely to get osteoporosis. It shrinks your brain, and especially the part of your brain called your hippocampus, which is a part for short-term memory. So it's not good for memory, and in the long run, it pushes us towards dementia. So nothing about a high cortisol is very good. But on top of all those things, as though that wasn't bad enough, it also mood, anxiety, depression go along with high cortisol. But as though that wasn't bad enough, cortisol is really important to regulate your immune system, to make sure it's doing what it needs to do. And if your cortisol level is not right, then your immune system function will not be right. It won't work properly. Over the long term, what sometimes happens is instead of staying with high cortisol, the system sort of burns itself out for a variety of reasons, and the cortisol can drop inappropriately. Now you don't even have enough cortisol to get you through the day. And this is when you feel just exhausted, overwhelmed, kind of burned out, like every little thing feels so exhausting when it doesn't really need to be. Just like going to the grocery store, getting home and unloading the groceries can wear you out. And there's a really common pattern of fatigue that we see, which is that it gets really hard to wake up in the morning. So your alarm goes off, although now a lot of us, we don't have to have an alarm, so that's helpful. But the alarm goes off, you press snooze maybe a couple of times, and then you crawl to the coffee pot because you need that burst of caffeine to perk up your brain, because caffeine raises the cortisol so you can function like a human being. So once you get moving though in the morning, usually then you're okay for a while, until 2, 3 in the afternoon when you get that slump. And, you know, I've been talking to a few people lately about how 2, 3 in the afternoon just tends to coincide with that carpool pickup line if you happen to have kids. And so there are lots of moms around America that are like nodding off in the carpool pickup line because that's the slump. So today you don't have to pick your kids up in the carpool pickup line, but nonetheless, that slump is really common. Often people get better by supper time, sometimes tired shortly after supper, you know, like you're falling asleep on the couch while you're watching TV. But if you stay up late enough, then you get a second wind and then your brain is awake and you can't fall asleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, we repeat the whole cycle. So that up and down pattern of fatigue is really typical for adrenal gland problems. Your adrenal glands make cortisol, so it's sort of a sign that your cortisol is not right. And this is so common. This is the most common hormone problem that we address. This is so common that it almost seems normal. Lots of people have that slump in the afternoon and need that coffee. Lots of people have a hard time getting up in the morning. Lots of people can't sleep well at night. It seems so normal to us, but it is not normal, and we should not put up with that because there are a lot of things that we can do to make that better. And if those kinds of things are going on for you, it is a clue that your immune system may not be as strong as we want it to be. Another hormone that is really important for immune system function that is insulin, which is the one that regulates your blood sugar. And when you have a cortisol problem, it causes an insulin problem. So people with diabetes have insulin problems. They are at higher risk for getting very sick with this coronavirus because when your blood sugar is not managed properly, it suppresses your immune system. So stress causes cortisol problems, which cause blood sugar problems, and then both of them put together are impacting your immune system. Let's talk about your gut next. So lots of people have digestive symptoms, right? Bloating and constipation and heartburn. So that's a common thing to have digestive symptoms. But even if you don't have any digestive symptoms, it's actually quite common for your digestive tract lining to not be quite as healthy as you thought that it was. And there are a number of things that can impact that. So pesticide residues in our food kill off the good healthy bacteria that live in our gut. So we spray the pesticides on the food to kill the bugs and the germs. Then we eat the food and it gets in our gut and kills off our good bacteria too. And even if you wash the food, the pesticides are incorporated in the plant, so you can't completely avoid it. So that's why buying organic, if you can, which is not so easy these days, but whenever you can, is helpful. So you need the healthy good bacteria in your gut because these good bacteria train your immune system. They regulate your immune system and help your immune system know what to do. So if you don't have the right good healthy bacteria in your gut, you will not have the healthy immune system that you want. If you have digestive symptoms, that's a clue. But even if you don't have digestive symptoms, it could still be a problem. So pesticide residues is one of the causes of a problem here. Hidden food sensitivities is another common, super common again. We estimate that probably 1 in 3 women may have a hidden food sensitivity. So if you are eating something that could be perfectly healthy for everybody else, but it's causing inflammation on your insides, that's just ramping up your immune system and putting it on overdrive. And if your immune system is busy trying to attack these green bean molecules or whatever it is over here, doesn't have the resources to go attack the coronavirus as well as it should over there. So hidden food sensitivities are another one. There are a lot of things that can knock out our good healthy microbiome. So antibiotics, birth control pills, steroid medicines, antacids. There's a long list of the like Motrin, the ibuprofen that we're telling you not to take right now anyway, if you can avoid it. There are lots of medicines that do it. Alcohol, sugar, and stress. So when your cortisol is high, it eats away at the lining of your digestive tract so that it's not so healthy. If your cortisol is too low, it makes it so that your digestive lining can't heal properly. And you know, cortisol changes over the 24 hours. That's why we get the up and down in energy over the day. And so it's not that uncommon for people to have it high part of the day and low the other part of the day. And so we can have things all manners going on at the same time. But stress affects cortisol, which affects your gut, which affects your immune system. Toxins in the environment are another thing that are really important for immune system function. We are all exposed every day to thousands of toxins. There are probably over 50,000 chemicals that have been invented since World War II. They are in plastics, they're in cleaning supplies, they're in the walls of our homes and in our upholstery and in our skincare products, in our food, right? Pesticide residues, but also artificial sweeteners and preservatives and all those kinds of things. So avoiding toxins to the best of our ability is important, because toxins can impair the function of your immune system. And it's really hard to know what kind of toxins you've been exposed to. So doing your best to try to minimize exposure to toxins, going green, looking for all natural, trying to get organic, is another thing that can just, as a general statement, help with immune system function. So let's specifically talk about things that you can do right now today to try to boost your immune system function to the best of your ability. And we need to just start with basics. You need to get enough sleep. If you're not sleeping well, that's not good for your immune system. Your immune system needs a good 8 hours sleep. So doing your best to get enough sleep, feeding your body the good nutrition that it needs. So when you are eating the fruits and the vegetables, they are supplying all those vitamins and nutrients that your body needs to generate a healthy immune system. If you are eating fast foods and sugary drinks and junk, not only are you not giving your body the nutrients that it needs, but of course that sugar suppresses your immune system. So if you have a soda, your immune system will be suppressed for 4 hours as a result of the sugar in that soda. So while you're home and you're stressed and you're baking brownies and, doing things because you're stir crazy and you're just trying to survive, that really is working against you. And we want to try to find healthier ways of coping than turning to the sugar. Movement is really important. Exercise is so important for boosting your immune system, and stress management. So before I move on to talk about nutritional supplements, I really do want to stop and talk about stress management for just a bit. So SHiFT is all over this, right? We are all about being the best version of ourselves, and mind-body practices and meditation. And right after me, Ruthie is coming on. She's going to talk about EFT. And if you are somebody who is really struggling with stress eating or turning to the wine bottle or whatever it is right now, EFT is a great way to try to help with those kinds of cravings. So I really encourage you to stay on and listen to what she has to say. When you are stressed, your brain doesn't know the difference between something that is actually happening and something that you're just imagining in your brain. So if you are sitting at home and you are constantly thinking about the people on the ventilators and who's going to die, and worried about your, granny, and worried about yourself because you have a chronic illness, if you are constantly sitting and thinking those thoughts, you are taking this bad situation and you are making it worse. You are causing more harm to your immune system. Your cortisol level is being affected more. On the other hand, if you are able to shift your thinking and think about positive things, find things to be grateful for, we still have power, we still have the internet, we can still connect with people, we have water, there is still food left in the grocery store. And I can tell you from yesterday, there's still lots of gluten-free things. Those are being left behind, and fruits and vegetables too. Everybody's taken the foods that are the worst ones for the immune system. So for those of us who want to eat the right things, those foods are the ones that are still left. So there are lots of things that we can feel grateful for. And if you can focus on the things that you're grateful for, it takes that same stress and it lessens the negative impact that it's having on your body. So what you think about really makes a difference in your overall health and in your immune system function, in your cortisol levels, in blood flow patterns in your body. We want the blood flowing to your organs. And when you're stressed, it goes to your muscles so you can run for your life. But if there is currently no tiger chasing you, that is very unhelpful. And so it's easier said than done, right? It is a scary time and there's lots to be worried about. But if you can catch yourself thinking these negative thoughts, and just tell yourself to stop. And sometimes it actually helps to put your hand up and say, stop, just to kind of break the thought. And think of 3 things that you're grateful for, because your body can't experience fear and gratitude at the same time. So it really does help you to shift, and it really makes a difference for your health. If I could package it in a pill or put it in a shot and have you come in the office and give you a shot in your rump, I would do it. But I can't eat your broccoli for you. I can't go for a walk for you. And I can't change your thinking for you. But you can. Even if you cannot control what's going on outside, you do have at least some control over your thoughts. And if you are somebody who struggles with anxiety, with OCD, then sometimes it can be really difficult to do what I'm suggesting here. And so, especially right now when there's lots of things to be anxious about, please reach out for help. Make sure that you're connected to professionals that can help you, because it really does make a big difference. So now let's move into some of the things that are maybe more controversial. The things that I'm going to talk about are all things that nobody knows. We don't have medical science to prove that these things are going to help you with the coronavirus, because this COVID-19 has never existed before. So we don't have any studies. What we have to look at is we can look at what has worked for other viruses. We can look at studies that have watched immune cell function and shown that immune cell function has gotten better. And we can sort of extrapolate, do we think that these things will help? Do we hope that these things will help? Are these things that don't seem like they would hurt, so it's okay to try them? So one of them is sipping warm liquids. What we know about this COVID-19, this particular coronavirus, is that it is heat sensitive. So heat in particular will kill the virus, whereas it is not cold sensitive. So putting things in the fridge, for example, are not so likely to kill the virus, but heat does. So sipping warm liquids, the hope is that if the virus gets into your nasal passages or into your mouth and it's in your nasopharynx, in your throat, if you can sip these warm liquids, that hopefully that will help to wash it down in your stomach, and then it gets inactivated by the acid in your stomach, and also helps to kind of thin mucus to make it waterier so that it drips down better. Do we really know that sipping warm liquids is going to help? Well, no, we don't really have science that proves it. But you know what? You're going to stay hydrated. We know that's good for you. You can, squeeze lemon into warm water or hot water, and we know that that's good for you, because lemon, even though it's acidic, is actually alkalinizing. And another thing that we want is we want your body to be more alkaline. And the things that can make you more alkaline is drinking lemon water, and in this case, drink it warm. Why not? But also eating lots of vegetables. The vegetables are very alkalinizing, whereas sugar is very acidifying. Red meat is also acidifying, and I don't want to get into should we be eating meat or not, but we do want you to eat lots of vegetables, partly because they've got those nutrients that your immune system needs to stay well, and partly because they help you be more alkaline, and viruses don't like an alkaline environment. Another one that is being talked about, which I think doesn't hurt if you've got one, is a sauna. So if you're lucky enough that you happen to have a sauna in your home, saunas heat your internal body temperature, and we know that the viruses don't like heat, so it seems like it is certainly worth a try. Fever is your body's trying to create more heat to kill off the virus, so going in a sauna seems like it would be a reasonable thing to try. No science to prove that it's going to work for COVID-19. And actually, I would say these things that I'm talking about are things to try to help keep your immune system strong, so that when you do get exposed to the virus, you get a mild version of the illness instead of a severe version. I'm not saying that if you are sick and you go in a sauna, that it's going to cure it. And in fact, if you are sick, you probably don't need to be in a sauna at that point. The warm liquids are fine. The vegetables are good. Maybe not so much the sauna. Another one is to think about fasting, which might not have been one of the things that you would have thought of. But we know that when we do intermittent fasting, it's good for a whole bunch of things in our body. It's good for your blood sugar. It's good for blood pressure and cholesterol. And the reason is that when you are in a fasted state, your cells can do routine maintenance, they can throw out the trash, so they're repairing themselves. And that's what we want. We want your cells to be strong and healthy. And going on an extended fast may not be the best thing right now, but intermittent fasting is something that I would recommend. Intermittent fasting, really what I mean is time-restricted feeding. And so that's where you eat your regular meals, hopefully with healthy foods, in an 8-hour window, and then you fast for the other 16 hours. So what that might look like is you move your breakfast a little later, wait to have your breakfast at say 10 or 11, and then finish eating by 7 or 8 at night, and then you fast until the next morning until 10 or 11. And it's actually easier now that we're all stuck at home. Sometimes if you have to get to work, you may not have as much control over when you can eat. Like teachers, for example, you know, you're in your class, you can't just eat your breakfast whenever you feel like it. But most people find that shifting their meals a little later and stopping eating in the evening is really not that hard. And the whole idea is this becomes a lifestyle, not like you do it for 3 days. Even if you just did it for 12 hours, like let's say you eat your breakfast by 8 and finish eating by 8, that is still helpful because then you're still fasting the other 12 hours. And honestly, eating your breakfast by 8 and finishing your dinner by 8 should just be normal. It shouldn't really be a big deal. But fasting is one of the things that could be helpful. It's not going to hurt you. It's good for you for other reasons, and it's worth a try. So let's move on and talk about supplements. Once again, nobody in the world until this year has ever had COVID-19. So we do not have any medical science to prove that any of these things will work for COVID-19. What we know is that these are nutritional supplements that support immune system function, and that's what we're trying to have is a strong immune system. So vitamin C is one of the ones that we talk about the most. Vitamin C is, we know from years and lots of research, is very good for immune system function. We know from other viruses that it has some antiviral properties. The dose that I would recommend if you're, feeling well and you're just trying to stay not sick, for right now, I'm recommending 2,000 milligrams twice a day. Vitamin C is water soluble. You pee it out. It's better to spread out the doses. You can even do like 1,000 4 times a day, but to make life simple, I'm suggesting 2,000 twice a day for somebody who's otherwise well. We got to worry about people who have kidney issues. But for most people, it should be safe and it should be fine. So vitamin C is a good one. And like we said, they're testing very high doses of vitamin C in the ICUs in China and also now in New York. Vitamin A is another one that is really important for immune system function. And vitamin C, really, we would love for you to get your vitamin C from foods as opposed to just relying on the pill. We always want you to try to get your nutrients from foods whenever possible. So fruits and vegetables, actually the vegetable that has the highest vitamin C is red bell peppers if they're left at the grocery store. And vitamin A comes more from animal foods like butter and the skin of chicken. And it also comes from fruits and vegetables, especially the precursors like all the beta carotenes and stuff in carrots. Zinc is another important immune system booster. The dose of zinc, if you want to take it as a supplement, I'm recommending 30 milligrams a day for people who are generally healthy. And if you are not generally healthy, if you have health conditions, if you're on prescription medicines, please talk to your doctor about taking these things. And I will preface that by saying your doctor probably won't really know, which is a shame, but doctors are not taught about these kinds of nutritional supplements, but at least your doctor will know your personal medical condition and they'll be able to give you a better understanding of whether there potentially could be any problem with any of these nutritional supplements. But zinc is another one that's really important, and you get zinc from nuts and again from the fruits and vegetables. Vitamin D is one of the most important. So what we know about vitamin D and the flu is there's lots of studies, but one study that really sticks in my brain is back during World War II, they took a bunch of army recruits and they took people who had influenza and they sucked snot out of the people with the flu's nose and they squirted it up these poor army recruits. And back in the day, they didn't have the same rules that we have now that we have to like ethically disclose and tell you what we're doing. So I'm not sure these army guys knew what was getting squirted up their nose because that's kind of gross. But they looked at which of those Army guys got sick after they got exposed to the flu virus right into their nose. And they looked at all the different factors. And the thing that made the biggest difference was vitamin D. So the people who had more vitamin D had the less risk of getting the flu. So we don't know for COVID-19, but we know from many studies, from many different illnesses, that vitamin D is really important to regulate your immune system. It literally turns your genes off and on, and certain genes affect your immune system, so you want them on. Certain genes might suppress your immune system, you want them off. And generally, vitamin D turns genes off and on in the good direction. And the best way to take vitamin D is to know your blood level, because if your blood level is really low, you're going to need a bigger dose to get you up to the optimal range. Whereas maybe you already are at the optimal range and you don't need to take more vitamin D. So I really recommend knowing what your vitamin D level is. And what we want is we want around 60 to 80. That's the optimal range. The normal range is 30 to 100. Most people are in the 20s and 30s, which is not enough. The halfway mark is 65. So we want you to be at least in the halfway and even tilting, a little on the upper half of the normal range. So if you have no idea what your vitamin D level is, taking 2,000 IU a day is probably a safe amount. Most people I find though need 5,000 a day, and some people whose levels are really low need 10,000 a day. People with darker pigmented skin need higher doses. So a lot of my African American patients need 10,000 IU a day to get their level up there. So that's why it's really helpful to know your level. But in a pinch, 2,000 should be safe. The problem if you take too much vitamin D is that it can raise your calcium level, and it's the high calcium that could cause problems. But it's hard to take too much vitamin D. It's kind of like you could die from drinking too much water, but that's not the problem for most of us. Most of us struggle to get enough water, and vitamin D is kind of the same. Probiotics would be another good choice because we're trying to keep that gut microbiome nice and healthy. So taking a probiotic would not be a bad idea. Melatonin has actually been shown to have immune boosting benefits. If you're not sleeping is not good for your immune system, and melatonin can help, especially it helps you to fall asleep. If your problem is that you wake up at 3 in the morning, melatonin might not be the best one to fix that. But if it's hard to fall asleep, melatonin is great, and it's immune boosting. So trying a melatonin supplement to help with your sleep right now would be a good idea, but it might not be a terrible thing to take some melatonin, at least for now, to boost your immune system. I'm going to talk about a few more that, is really more for people who are already taking vitamins. They're really interested. It's not necessary to take all of these things. What's really important is eat healthy foods, get enough sleep, move your body, and try to find some healthy ways to handle stress. Those are the really important things. These vitamin supplements are kind of just the icing on the cake. Elderberry, I know the last speaker, at least I saw it on the website at the end there. Elderberry is an herb. We use elderberry a lot for the flu because it helps to boost immune system. There is some controversy right now about elderberry. And I guess what I would say is elderberry is probably okay, but we just don't know. And so it is probably best to prevent you from getting sick as opposed to using it as treatment if you already are sick. And the same is true for echinacea, which is another herb that we use. It boosts your immune system to help prevent you from getting sick. So if you're trying to prevent yourself from getting sick and you take echinacea, that's probably okay. Might not be the best thing to take while you're sick. It's probably going to turn out to be fine. What we really need to be worried about is the Doritos and the Mountain Dew, not the elderberry and the echinacea. But this is a controversy that's swirling around right now in the functional medicine community, the natural health doctors, while we're trying to learn and figure it out. Another one that is something to think about is glutathione, which is a really important antioxidant. It's the most important antioxidant in your body. You make it in your liver as opposed to like eating it in blueberries. You can take it as a supplement, liposomal glutathione. You can also take N-acetylcysteine, or NAC, NAC for short, which is what your body uses to make the glutathione. So it's a really important antioxidant, and that's good, but it is also used to thin mucus in the lungs. So for people who have cystic fibrosis and other conditions where they tend to get lots of mucus in their lungs, it makes it hard for them to breathe. They do inhalers it's called mucomist, but basically it's N-acetylcysteine, this NAC, and it helps to thin the secretions so they can breathe. People who get this coronavirus, it settles in the lungs, it gunks the lungs up with secretions and they can't breathe. And so it seems logical that this NAC or the glutathione could be helpful. We don't know. It should not hurt. And so that's something that I've heard other practitioners talk about, and we're going to learn. So I think that I'm going to stop there with the supplements. And I just want to remind everybody that this is going to pass. It's not going to last forever. Nobody knows. You hear the politicians talking about, is it going to be weeks or months? And they don't know either. Nobody knows. But let's focus on the things that are within our control and that we can do. And one of the things that makes it worse is when we feel helpless, when we have a lack of control, when we feel trapped, that makes everything worse. It makes our stress worse. It makes our cortisol problems worse and suppresses our immunity. So it's important to have ways to take back control. So choosing to feed your body the nutrients that it needs to be healthy gives you back some sense of control. Exercising regularly at home. Maybe you got to exercise different than you used to, but exercising gives you back some control because you're doing something positive. And another thing that I would really encourage is helping helps. So if you can find ways to be of service, to do good in the world, it really makes a difference for you. So for example, if you are otherwise healthy and able-bodied, and you can go to the grocery store and deliver groceries for a senior so that they don't have to go out, it's good for them, but it makes you feel good about yourself too, and that is good for your immune system. And maybe you can't go out, maybe you've got a chronic condition, it's not safe. You can call people to check on them. You can do a Google review for a business in your local community that you would like to support. All these businesses are hurting. And even though, let's say it's a restaurant, nobody's going to be able to go to the restaurant right now. It'll help them in the end when they're open again. And it makes you feel good inside for doing nice things. And it makes you think about gratitude because you think about, which businesses do I like and have helped me and how can I help them? So if you can find ways to do good in the world, that makes a difference, not just for the world outside, but for you and for your immune system. So one last thing before we head off here is if anyone is interested in learning more about how my team or I can help them, I'd like to invite you to jump on a free discovery call with one of my patient coordinators, and I think Lori's going to give out the link. We want the opportunity to help as many people as can help. We are doing Zoom appointments, phone appointments. Normally we only see people in Charlotte. Right now, rules have shifted and we're even able to see people remotely now, even if you don't live nearby. And there's lots of things that we can do to help support immune system function and, recommend specific vitamins, et cetera. And there's really sort of three groups of people that I think that we can help. We can help people who have chronic diseases who aren't satisfied to just rely on the prescription medicines and really want to know what else could they be doing to be the best version of themselves that they can be and hopefully maybe need less of the prescription medicines. The second group of people is people who just know they don't feel great. Maybe you're tired or you're not sleeping or you can't lose weight or you got digestive symptoms, your mood is flat, lost interest in sex, you just don't feel right. And it's not normal, but you're not really sure what's wrong. And a lot of times people who have these kinds of symptoms go into their doctor to complain and they're looking for hope and answers, but what they end up getting is another prescription for a sleeping pill, for antidepressants. But there's so much that can be done to get you back to feeling well by getting at the root cause of the problem, which is often imbalanced digestive microbes or hormone imbalances or things that we can fix. The third group of people that we can help is people who are healthy and well, who really value their health and they want to be doing whatever they can do to stay well. They want to know, are they taking the right vitamins? Is the dose right for them? They want to be evaluated, so they can stay well as much as possible. So if you're interested in learning more, we have team members that are happy to talk to you, just explore, let you know, we need to learn a little bit about you, and we'll tell you a little bit more about us to see if it would be a good fit. And we have we've even come up with some ways to help people coping with stress and keeping their immune system healthy from home. So we've tried to find ways that we can be helpful in this time, because it makes us feel better and boosts our immune systems too. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Lori.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So in terms of the links, what we're going to do, folks that are listening on the Kluge Facebook Live or the real Facebook Zoom recording, we're going to have everything posted probably in the interim when I don't have live videos going on, and or tomorrow, depending on how technology continues to support or deal. And so Deborah's going to have, Dr. Deb, excuse me, is going to have a link out there, and it's to basically have a free consult, Dr. Deb, or should we be a team member? And we will just put all of the links for everybody, as well as Dr. Deb happens to have a very active live amount of videos out there because she's regularly on local TV. So we're going to kind of give everybody like the whole library of Dr. Deb and all of the other speakers, so that I'm not just trying to say lots of words and letters and spelling things out. But if anyone wanted to look, Signature Wellness is Signature Wellness. Look, type that in for Charlotte or Dr. Deb's name, you'll get all the information. Or you can wait a couple hours or a day, and we'll have everything out there. So thank you so much. This was awesome. And for those on the call, what's going to happen now is we're going to end the recording. We're going to end the meeting. Everyone's going to get up, do the 7th inning stretch, go walk around their house, not get a lot of exercise, but we will be back with Ruthie Cohen Joyner in just a few minutes, I think 8 minutes to be exact. And Ruthie did a pre-recorded meditation, and we'll probably come on just the way we're doing right now. We'll keep the Kluge Facebook Live that Deb turned me on to. We'll do the Zoom recording, and Ruthie will be doing a short guided EFT and meditation. It lasts around 25 minutes. So kind of stay tuned. But if you are going to do it, what's going to happen is I'm kicking you all off Zoom now so that I can kind of have encapsulated time, and I'm not looking at hours and hours of recording. And what's going to happen is we will come back. So just use the same link. So thank you, everybody. Oh, there we go. What's the question? Awesome. And do we have someone's hand, Deb? I didn't see. I have a raised hand, but let me see if I can unmute Laura. Laura, what do you had your hand raised?
I was wondering if the next section will be recorded that we could listen to later, because I believe there's part 2 of the NCIMS meeting.
Yes.
Coming up at 11.
Thank you for bringing that up. Everybody, everything is recorded, and we're not really looking for everyone to be live on an 80-degree day. So I made the plan and the decision 2 weeks ago when I saw the weather forecast that we are just going to be like recorded, and everything is available for, well, maybe not forever, but for a long, long time, it'll be available. And don't feel like you have to stay in. Deb's advice to go out, be stress-free, listen to another recording, go enjoy the sunshine, and catch this when you want to. That's what it's there for. We're here to support, not to create artificial constructs. That answer your question?
Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Hitting end recording, then end meeting, and we'll see you all at whatever point you choose to join us back. Thanks a lot.
Bye.